Morning. Welcome to St. Peter's in Hove. I'm Father Alexander. It's another splendid sunny day. And here we go with two Psalms, which, in my humble opinion, are both saying the same thing. This is Psalm 125, brackets 126, and Psalm 126, brackets 127. And this is, I think, our 192nd step in our walking tour through the Bible. Now, what are they both saying? Well, consider this. Has it ever occurred to you that things don't go well from time to time? Of course it has, if you're a human being. Sometimes we start things or we undertake a project and it ends in failure. It just doesn't go the way we expect it to go, or it goes a completely different way and maybe turns into a success, but not the sort of success that we imagined. Well, this is covered in Psalm 126, the second of these two Psalms. Listen to this. If the Lord does not build a house, in vain do its builders labour. If the Lord does not watch over the city, in vain does the watchman keep vigil. In vain is your early arising, your going later to rest. You who toil for the bread you eat, when he pours gifts on his beloved while they slumber. Truly sons are a gift from the Lord, a blessing, the fruit of the womb. Indeed, the sons of youth are like arrows in the hands of a warrior. Oh, the happiness of the man who has filled his quiver with these arrows. He will have no cause for shame when he disputes with his foes in the gateways. So, human effort, as human effort, unaided by God, is in vain. It's vanity. It's a waste of energy. If the Lord does not build a house, in vain do its builders labour. Now, this building of the house is a very powerful image. The house, of course, that we have in our minds is the house of God. And we are trying to build up the church, the house of God. You remember St. Francis was called by God to rebuild my house. And he went to San Damiano and he rebuilt this church. And people must have wondered what he was doing. But he was doing it cooperating with God. The impulse to rebuild San Damiano came from God. If the impulse does not come from God, we shouldn't undertake the work in question. Hence, St. Ignatius and many saints after St. Ignatius, not only St. Ignatius, but also St. Benedict, very particularly, talk about discernment. In other words, you need to consider what it is you're being called to do and work out whether this is really the way the Holy Spirit is calling you. And you need to put aside immediately the idea that you yourself have got a particular human gift to offer and you know what to do, and you need to whip everybody else into shape and force them into the template that you've created for them. That is not what we're here to do. Leadership in the church will lead to disaster if it is the sort of leadership that is inspired purely by human ambitions and values. And of course, we have the great example of Marxism before us. They built a house and they watched over a city. They got up earlier, they went to bed later, and it was all in vain. They created nothing of lasting value, absolutely nothing. Instead, they created a monument to human folly and cruelty, the Gulag. He pours out gifts on his beloved while they slumber. In fact, this is quite an extreme image. Usually the gifts of God are given to those who ask for the gifts of God and those who are willing to cooperate with the gifts of God. But here, God pours out his gifts, and even those who don't ask for it, those who don't cooperate with him, those who are fast asleep at the time. Don't forget, when you're fast asleep, you're out of action, aren't you? And God will give you everything you need when you're out of action. Human action does not force God to act. You can't force God to act by acting yourself. We have to wait for the action of God. And that, of course, is the last psalm we considered. They only serve who only stand and wait. We wait for God to make his desires and his will known to us. So, activism is not the Christian way. It's certainly not the Catholic way. There's much, of course, in this psalm which would echo with what many of our Protestant brethren say about works righteousness. In other words, doing good works in order that God may be forced to give us salvation in return. Remember, Mother Teresa, for many years, just worked as a Loreto sister. It was when she had her inspiration that she then moved into the slums of Calcutta, but she waited for the inspiration. We too need to wait for the inspiration. And inspiration is not just any old word. Inspiration, the Spirit working in us. Now let's look at the previous Psalm 125. When the Lord delivered Zion from bondage. Hey, what's this? Zion didn't deliver itself from bondage, you know. When the Lord delivered Zion from bondage. The children of Israel were taken into exile in Babylon, and they were delivered not by themselves, but by the intervention of God. It was a gift of God they were delivered. It seemed like a dream. Then our mouth was filled with laughter, on our lips there were songs. When God blesses us, inspires us, works with us, then it really does seem like a dream. And indeed, on our lips there were songs. We rejoice. It's a difference between rowing upstream, which is terribly difficult, and sometimes when you get to a waterfall, impossible, or rowing downstream, where the current just carries you and you are carried by the strength and the Spirit of God. Which would you rather do? Walk upstream or walk downstream? Which would you rather do? Escape from jail, which is really quite hard, or allow God to liberate you? Incidentally, there might be a little message here in this psalm for liberation theologians. When the Lord delivered Zion from bondage, it was the Lord who intervened and delivered Zion from bondage. It was not human effort. It certainly wasn't revolution. So the people were ready to be liberated, it has to be said. The heathens themselves, people who don't understand God themselves, said, "What marvels the Lord worked for them? What marvels the Lord worked for us? Indeed, we were glad." Deliver us, O Lord, from our bondage as streams in dry land. Those who are sowing in tears will sing when they reap. They go out full of song, full of tears, carrying seed for the sowing. They come back full of song, carrying their sheaves. So the people of Israel have been released from bondage. That's a historical event happened a long time ago. But something else has happened. Now we're in bondage again as streams in dry land. Things have not gone so well, perhaps when they're back in the promised land. Those who are sowing in tears will sing when they reap. Quite often, when we start something, we think, oh gosh, this is a stony field. This is hard work. And this is not going to go well. And we feel starting anything, such as, for example, the church's reopening after COVID, it was pretty grim. But those who are sowing in tears will sing when they reap. It will take God time to work his marvels. We must be patient. Okay, I hope that helps. There's two